Let us all down.
Howdy folks, and welcome to my first impressions video for Bravely Default 2. The first two things you may notice: one, this isn't a review of Control, I'll get onto why that is in a second. Two, you may notice I started the video with everyone dying. That's because, my god, this is legitimately the hardest demo I've ever played. The game does warn you about this. You actually get a little thing at the start that tells you that the difficulty has been boosted from where it will be in the main game. Whether this means the game's going to have a hard mode and that's what they released as a demo, I don't know. But it's definitely unusual, and much to its benefit. We'll get on to more about that in a second here. I will talk about, first of all, why this is not a review of Control, which was my plan for the week, as I mentioned at the end of my Doom review. Incidentally, thank you to everyone that watched the Doom review. Much appreciated. But yeah, so I hadn't played Control at all at the time of deciding it was going to be the next review. It was on offer on the PlayStation Store, to be honest. It was 60% off. And it had been in the Game of the Year top list. I don't think it got the top of anyone's list, but it had been a few Game of the Year lists from a few reviewers I respected. And if you'd only played the first half of the game, I can maybe see why. The second half, not so much. The game is thoroughly okay. And I'm not going to review it because, I mean, A, I haven't been well, which means we're doing a more freeform video here that I'm not editing as much. But as well as that, I just didn't find myself with all that much to say about it. It was essentially, sort of, to be really nice to it, it was Half-Life by way of Twin Peaks. Which was an interesting concept, but my god, the second half of that game dragged. Anyway, I should probably talk about Bravely Default 2, as that's what we sat watching. The game is screwing us numerically, I feel, because there was Bravely Default on the 3DS, and then there was a sequel called Bravely Second, which I never played. So I actually watched a story recap video for Bravely Default before I started playing this demo, and either I did not complete that game, which I thought I had, or I have forgotten an awful lot of the end of that story, because it goes places. I won't give spoilers, but yeah, so I don't know if I needed to check up the plot for Bravely Second. The plot for the demo here for Bravely Default 2 doesn't have a huge amount to do with anything. It seems to be its own little separate side thing, which is fine for a demo. So yeah, the demo is pretty hard. For those who haven't played any game in the series, it is, as you can see, a JRPG using turn-based combat. The unique selling point of the game is that you have two options, one called Braving and one called Defaulting. And Defaulting is essentially like saving your turn so that you can take two at once later down the line. It's a good thing to do with healers at the start of the fight when no one necessarily needs healing. Or you have an option called Braving. And Braving lets you take extra turns. They can either be the ones you've saved from Defaulting, or they can be... Effectively, you can go into debt on the amount of turns you've taken. Up to 4 turns. So you can take 4 turns at the start of your first turn, but the downside is you then cannot do anything for 4 turns with that character. There are a few different times it comes in handy. It's not something, honestly, you'll use every single fight, unless you think you can win the fight in a round, at which point getting everyone to take 4 turns at once, because the deficit doesn't carry over between fights. So if you think you can win the fight with everyone at the start by having them take 4 turns, then it's a great move. If you end up not winning that fight when you've done that, though, any enemies that are left will get to take 4 turns without you doing anything. Something else that the enemies can do is they can Brave and Default themselves. I honestly can't remember if that was a thing they could do in the first game. And I don't know if they could do it in the second, because I never played it. But yeah, the demo is, as I've said, incredibly difficult. And as you can see on screen here, I am having to stock up on armor and stuff. Getting the right equipment for the job class that you're playing is very important. Jobs or classes can be changed on the fly. You get 2. You get to have a main and a sub. What I did was try to pair them up and then swap them when I was leveling them. They max out at level 7 for the purposes of the demo, You have a separate XP level that maxes out at 20. You start at 10, I think. And honestly, you are going to want to max out 2 jobs for each of your characters. And you're probably going to want to have your XP up around the 20. It does mean doing some grinding. But grinding in this game is never dull. Because the enemies, even the weakest enemies to start off with, are a huge threat. You burn through mana extremely quickly. And they do really high amounts of damage. Which is awesome, incidentally, because normally I get quite bored playing JRPG demos. The thing with JRPG demos, generally, actually, is either they drop you into the middle of everything with a whole bunch of abilities unlocked, and you kind of generally have no idea what you're doing. And they drop you into the middle of the story as well. This demo does neither of those things. Oh god, it's me. Self-deprecation, I've got it. Yeah, it seems to be its own little side story. And it does give you all the tutorials you'd expect for the job classes and the various abilities. Which is actually awesome, because I've actually been turned off a few JRPGs before. Because they don't have good demos. They have demos that just drop you into the middle of everything and expect you to explore, and I'm not good at that. This doesn't do that. You get all of your tutorials, but the difficulty compensates for it. I haven't completed this demo, I have to say. The last boss, and I did go and look it up online to check I was at the last boss. I suspected I was. Because I've spent a decent amount of time with this demo. I've spent about 3 or 4 hours with it. And I haven't been bored. I'd have happily played more, which I suppose is a good thing for a demo, really. But yeah, the last boss is absolutely balls hard. I haven't killed him. I've come close, I think. I've actually gone through the demo a couple of different times to give different people different jobs. I wanted to see if they were more suited based on the initial stats they've got. And I'm still not sure, actually. But I seem to do better the second time around, but that could well be to do with the fact that I was going and expecting the difficulty to be as high as it was. But yeah, I know the only thing you get for killing the boss is the story ends, but you get to play with an extra job class, and I'll wait for the full game to do that. I don't know if I'll play the full game on the harder difficulty setting, if that's an option. I might, because it definitely got me to pay a lot more attention. I've been playing, in terms of classic JRPGs, I've actually been playing through the Dragon Quest series, the original ones. Which are a lot of fun. And the Switch, I think, is great for games like this, because in the battle systems, if you are finding them too easy, you can kind of be playing it like in handheld mode while you're watching TV or something. And it gets you through the grindy bits. Not necessarily the best of things in the world that, you know... I'm suggesting it's a good thing that you can be doing something else while playing it, and the game shouldn't make you want to do that. But it's fine. So yeah, we're going to go to some footage of the last boss here, who in fact you have already seen killing me at least once. One little nitpick here, they have the option to auto-advance the dialogue, which would be great if it stayed on between dialogue scenes. Ooh, a little bit of a frame rate chunk there. I did not notice that when I was playing. That might be from my capture, folks. Looking at the game, it's absolutely visually gorgeous. I do wonder if it was originally made for the 3DS and then upscaled. But it's fine. It's an unusual demo in that it's interesting. It's really got me up for playing the actual game itself. And yeah, highly recommended. Check it out. The demo is on the eShop on Switch. So we're going to see how this video goes, folks. As I say, it's a completely new format to me, but I wanted to put out something, and this seemed like the best way of doing that. If you would like to, you can follow me on Twitch, where this week I will be playing Resident Evil 3 as soon as it's out. Should hopefully be the day this video comes out, which we will be reviewing next week. You can also follow me on Twitter. The link is on your screen and in the description for the channel below. I have a Patreon set up, which I know I have a whole whopping 9 subscribers on the channel right now. It's very presumptuous of me to have a Patreon set up. But if you want to support me, it's there for you to use as an option. Yep, this guy is absolutely kicking my butt. But you've seen me die once. I don't think we need to see me die again. I will talk to you all next week, folks. Until then, peace. I'm out.
I'm done.
Here goes nothing.